Morning, everyone. How's it going? How's your morning going? It is a morning where Seahawks fans have to face a reality that they have not had to face in about 10 years. Been a decade since before Russell Wilson got here. For the first time since Russell Wilson got here, the Seattle Seahawks and their fans woke up this morning knowing that there was still football left to be played, but the football that was left to be played did not matter because the team had already been completely eliminated from the playoffs. First time since before Wilson got here where the team goes into a game, and we will be going into two games for the end of the season. And we already know that we're just playing for pride. It's a weird place to be, and with a failure and disappointment of this magnitude should come some change, right? Like before yesterday, I think you could have made a very compelling argument that, hey, let's just write this off as an anomaly and let's try to run it back in 2022, at least mostly. Maybe you change a couple of things on the coaching staff, get new coordinators, get new position coaches, but we're going to keep all the main stuff and just see if we can maybe get a little bit more fortuitous bounces in 2022, right? Because before yesterday, the excuses, if you wanted to make them, they kind of wrote themselves, right? Like every team we had lost to was at least decent, right? Titans, they're a good team. Vikings are okay, not great or anything, but they're okay. The Rams are good. The Steelers are okay. The Saints were good at the time we played them. The Packers are good. The football team's okay. The you can see the excuses start to form, and if you as a person want to buy into those excuses, then you can. But that excuse goes out the door when you lose at home to the 4-10 Chicago Bears with no Khalil Mack, no Allen Robinson, and their third string quarterback. Legitimately, that Bears team that you lost to yesterday might be one of the worst teams in the league in that state. Missing two of their best players, down to a third string QB. That is, you can't get much worse than that. And at this point, I think it's really hard to deny that change is coming. Big change, monumental change. The excuses that this team could have made for this pathetic performance this season, big chunk of it flew out the door with that loss yesterday. So we got to talk about the big changes that might be made for a little bit. And I don't think it's really hard to get away from the seemingly undeniable and inevitable fact that at least one of the Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson duo needs to go. Possibly both, but it's almost impossible to believe both guys will be here in 2022. And I look at this exchange here that is documented in this tweet. Not really an exchange, but it's two paraphrased quotes from Pete and Russ after that Bears game. Pete said, according to Mike Salk, that Wilson should have thrown the ball away on the third down sack from the 8-yard line. That was the play right before Jason Myers missed a 39-yard field goal that would have been 26-yard field goal if Wilson had thrown the ball away. Wilson, in his own press conference, says that he thinks he did the right thing because he was trying to make a play because they were already in field goal range. So it's hard for me to look at this any other way than our coach and our quarterback are not on the same page. Like, this is pretty glaringly obvious, right? This is a huge moment in this game. This was a moment that probably cost us this game more than anything. If Myers bangs that field goal in, I'm almost positive we win that game. And we have the head coach saying the player needs to do X, and then the player saying, no, I don't need to do X. I did Y. Y is good. And I look at this. I look at some of the stuff that came out after the Titans loss earlier this year, where Wilson defended his choices to take shot plays, and Carroll said that he needs to take those checkdowns. And I just see a couple of guys who are not on the same page, and change is a coming. They could have run from the change if they had won out, if they had at least taken care of business against the bad teams. But I think that the ability to run away from a season like this becomes a lot harder when you start losing to teams like the Bears. And look, we can't trade Wilson right now. The trade deadline's passed. You can't trade Wilson right now. That's impossible. But you could at least consider firing Pete Carroll. So that's the question right now. If you can't trade Russ, and you know you're going to blow up the core this offseason, should you go ahead and just light the fire now with 2 games left and fire Pete? Before this game, I would have said no, because the season's almost over anyway. Just let Pete ride it out. And then at the end of the year, you can approach Carroll and go, hey, we're going in a different direction. You can either step down or we will fire you. But one way or the other, you're not going to be the head coach anymore. So just step down so we don't have to embarrass you. We're going to give you the opportunity to do this honorably. We're going to give you the opportunity to say that it's about wanting to spend time with your family or whatever, or saying that you just want to change a pace. Maybe you can go to Jacksonville and see what you can do over there. But we're going to let you finish the season. We're not going to kick the most successful head coach in Seahawks franchise history out mid-year. However, I want to explore the opposite side of things, because another reason why I would have been okay keeping Pete around until after the final game was, what purpose does it really serve? The team has not quit on Carroll. They're stupid, they're dumb, they do bad things, but this team has not quit. This team is fighting. Honestly, this team over the last month has done a lot of positive things. They've just done enough negative things to sabotage it, but they're not quitting. And there's nobody on this staff who you're looking at and going, okay, that might be the head coach of the future. Shane Waldron is clearly not ready. Ken Norton will never be ready. Dave Canales, Nate Carroll, get out of here. There's nobody on this staff. So I've always kind of felt like there was no point in letting go of Carroll now, because, again, the season's over. We're mathematically eliminated. But I want to take a look at something here real quick. This is from Ian Rappaport. It's from an actually unrelated article about Matt Nagy, who, by the way, his job may very well have been saved yesterday, courtesy of the Seahawks. But there was one part of this article that really caught my eye. Per Ian Rappaport on NFL Network on Sunday, there are new rules in place by the NFL regarding head coaching searches. The NFL's new rule allows teams who have fired their head coach to interview prospective candidates via Zoom during the last 2 weeks of the season. So basically, if you fire your head coach mid-season, you are then allowed to get a jump start on interviewing candidates. I believe the first day on which you can do that being Tuesday, so tomorrow. But only if you fire your head coach. So as of right now, the only 2 teams that can do this are the Raiders, who fired John Gruden, and the Jaguars, who fired Urban Meyer. So if you're a team that has already decided to move on from your head coach, do you want to be left behind as other teams get the opportunity to start interviewing their future coaches? Because you got to figure they're going to look at some of the top guys. Now it becomes more about, we have to be concerned about our future, right? Now the question becomes less about, look, I understand that Carroll deserves some respect for what he's done. I understand he's done great things here. I understand he's had a lot of success here. But at the end of the day, we need to do what's best for us here. And if we feel like a candidate that we really like, be it Kellen Moore, Eric Bieniemy, Brian DeBole, Matt Eberflus, etc., is going to be picked up by one of these teams that gets a head start on you, we need to do what we can to prevent that. So in some ways, it's kind of unfortunate that things have to end that way, But given this information, would you consider firing Pete Carroll now? Now you actually have something to lose if you don't do it. Now you might lose out on the candidate that you like. And I don't know how likely that is. The Jaguars' job, I don't know how appetizing that is because they have dubious ownership, but they do have Trevor Lawrence. They do have other young talent. It's not that bad. And as for the Raiders' job, there's some stuff there to like. It's not a terrible opening, I don't think. You've got that new stadium. Now you do have an owner who is not exactly in the best financial situation, but I don't think it's a terrible opening. You could probably lure some pretty good names there. So to me, now the question actually becomes interesting. But without this rule change, I would have just said at this point, just let Carroll ride out the string unless the team just completely quits and they start getting blasted by 6 touchdowns every game. But now, I think we might have to say, look, Pete, thank you for all the good times. Thank you for the 10 good years, or, well, more than that, actually. Thank you for all the good times. Thank you for all the stuff you did here. But we are going to be changing things up this offseason. And if we don't start now, we're going to be behind some of these other teams because, look, it's not just going to be the Raiders and Jaguars, probably. There are going to be other teams that also want to get in on this head start. So you might still see the Bears fire Nagy, even though they won yesterday, because they already know they're going to fire him. They might say, well, let's just do it now. Why wait until the guy that we like might get snatched up? So knowing this, I think it might be time to really seriously discuss letting Carroll go now. It's what I would do. Sorry, Pete, but this is the way it has to be. I want to crack at the top coaching prospects. Shout out to David M. for bringing this up in the stream yesterday because I didn't know about it until he mentioned it. So shout out to him. But let me know what you guys think. There are a lot of hot coaching prospects out there right now, like there always are. Some people like Nathaniel Hackett as well. I haven't mentioned him very much, but would you consider getting a head start on firing Carroll so you can start interviewing the next crop? Let me know what you guys think. I will see you guys later today. Go Hawks.